Cheat code. Support strategist. By clouds. My head in the clouds, not coming down. On AO3.
Chapter 13. Risk and Reward. Izuku intentionally left later than he should have for school so that he wouldn't have to deal with his classmates, which was worth the risk of running into Katsuki on the train. He honestly wasn't planning on being as late as he was, but when he reached the station, he caught sight of Katsuki already waiting for the train. Luckily, he was facing the other way, so he hadn't seen Izuku yet, and he was able to hide around the corner until the train left. It meant that Izuku had to wait for the next train, but he wouldn't have to deal with an angry Katsuki, so was it all good? As it was, Izuku ended up slipping into the little desk outside his work room right after the bell rang. Mi was sending him the stink eye, but he resolutely ignored her as Powerloader walked into the front room. He knew she was trying to do what she thought was best for him, but she never had to deal with being quirkless before. All right, class, settle down, Powerloader said. Welcome to the support course. Today, you're going to be deciding on and starting your semester projects. These have been approved by me, and I will also be looking over your work to evaluate your progress and to help you improve. I could personally recommend choosing a project that you would be able to use in the sports festival, since you're allowed to bring any support items you want, as long as you made them yourself. It's still a ways away, but it can sneak up on you if you're not careful. Izuku thought back on the project that the principal had given him. It wasn't an invention, but knowing all the first year students' quirks would give him an edge that nobody else would have. So maybe that's why Nezu assigned him in Analysis their quirks. He should try to give each of the students a few suggestions before the sports festival as well, to help them do well. He glanced over at Mei, who was already messing with the materials on her desk in excitement. Choosing just one project would be difficult for her. Powerloader called his attention back to the front of the room. You're also allowed to work on other projects for extra credit if you want. These have to be approved by me, just the same as if they were official projects. They just don't have to go as in such depth. I will be right here if you need any questions, or if you want your project approved. So don't hesitate to ask. With that, he sat back down and let them all to their work. Izuku immediately bolted into his room, so Meg couldn't try to force him to make friends, and closed the door behind him with a sigh. Immediately, his attention was grabbed by the nondescripted post-it note stuck on the central screen of his computer. Izuku approached it hesitantly, fully expecting some hated-filled death threat. It wouldn't be the first time, though his desk this morning had been noticeably clear of graffiti, which was a pleasant surprise. Though maybe Mei had just stared them all out of doing it, something that was obvious. Izuku had never had someone who was willing to protect him like that before. Izuku didn't notice himself clenching his eyes shut as he snatched the note off the screen. He had forced himself to take a peek, only for his eyes to widen in shock and relief as he realized that the note was actually from Nezu, not his classmates. Midoriya, here's the password to the camera system. RA plus _ Overlord. Burn this note. Nezu. Winky face. Izuku read it twice until he was sure that he would be able to remember the password before looking around. Did his room have matches? He checked all the drawers, found every office supply he never knew he needed, but nothing that would allow him to burn the note as instructed. He couldn't just tear it up. Someone could potentially resemble it and gain access to the cameras, and it would be all Izuku's fault. And then he stopped when he happened to glance out his window and noticed Mel working hard. She had so many things, explosive, that she could have something capable of burning a tiny piece of paper, right? But if he asked for her help, she might force him to confront their classmates, unless, of course, she was so distracted with her inventions that she completely forgot about her self-declared side quest. Izuku bit his lip, watched her for another long moment before deciding that it was a safe enough bet. The noise hit him immediately as soon as he opened the door. Almost everyone was working on something, and the happy sounds of drilled power tools seemed to come from every direction as he walked towards Mei's table. Mei-chan, Nezu gave me this note and asked me to burn it. Do you have something that'll be able to take care of it? Mei whipped her head around to face him, and he leaned back as the crosshairs in her eyes narrowed before giving him a smanic grin. Oh, a note? Burning, baby? I can make one. She reached for the note, but Izuku held out of her reach. Actually, Mei-chan, I was hoping for something a little faster. Mei pouted. You're no fun, Izuku. Nope, Izuku agreed. Now, are you going to help me or not? May glared at him for another moment before sighing and returning to her blowtorch. Izuku smiled brightly at her as he lit the corner of the note on fire and let it burn for a few seconds before dropping it to the floor and stomping out the flames once the note had completely burned to ash. Their classmates seemed to be giving them a wide berth as they watched the exchange, but that was just fine by him. Thanks, Mei-chan. Good luck on your project. Izuku started to walk back to his room, but was stopped in his tracks by Mei grabbing his arm. Oh, no, you don't. Mei grips tightened slightly as she grinned savagely. Izuku Midoriya, you're going to talk to your classmates if it kills you. Izuku was honestly convinced that it might. You're my friend, Mei. Shouldn't you be trying to keep me alive? Oh, shut up. You're not going to die. Mei waved the hand that wasn't holding Izuku hostage dismissively. Now, everybody listen up. This idiot thinks that you're all going to hate him because he was born with an extra joint or whatever. He needs you to beat it through his thick skull that not everybody is like his old school bullies. Izuku hid his face in his hand and groaned as it turned red. It wasn't a safe bet. Well, at least he had successfully burned the note and he could deal with all his classmates' rejection as what's. Small mercy, right? He prepared himself for the worst when he heard Kahi scoff. You're fucking kidding, right? Izuku uncovered his face to find her looking extremely unimpressed. If we're gonna hate you, it's because of something you did, loser. Izuku blinked a few times and flinched as someone patted his shoulder heavily. He looked up to see Hanzo, grinning at him, something that was really intimidating, considering his 3 rows of sharp teeth. Yeah, dude, rejecting someone based on their quirk is totally uncool. Izuku's eyes widened as he glanced over to the rest of the class, looking for any signs that they disagreed with what the other 2 had said. Most of his classmates just looked like they didn't care either way, which had him ever happened before. And the only one who didn't look bored with the whole thing was Shigeru, who was carefully trembling. Being quirkless doesn't make you any less terrifying, Midoriya. Mei gave a shocking laugh, and Izuku's jaw dropped. What? I'm not that scary, am I? Kaho rolled her eyes. Yeah, my hair's not plain to brush. You caught the attention of Principal Nezu, Midoriya. Of course, you're scary. Paraloro cleared his throat, and the class turned to look at him. Midoriya, UA has a zero-tolerance policy towards bullying and discrimination. You shouldn't have to worry, and if anybody gives you a hard time because of your quirk, you are more than welcome to report that to me or Nezu. And I won't get in trouble? Izuku asked, now reeling from shock. This all seemed like a dream. A good dream, but still a dream. He clamped his mouth shut when he noticed the heavy sighs and the blanketed the room in a stark contrast of the happy sounds of working that had greeted him when he first left the room. His classmates were staring at him with various expressions of disbelief, shock, and even anger. You used to get in trouble for reporting discrimination? Kairi asked. What the fuck? Well, it's just that every school has a zero bullying policy, Izuku hurried to explain. But most teachers tend to think that it's not a big deal or it's not big enough to get a promising student in trouble for that. But then something has to be done about the complaint and someone has to be punished. So, yeah. You don't have to worry about that anymore, Paralota said firmly. We actually follow our policies here. We wouldn't call ourselves heroes if we didn't even protect our students from each other. Thank you so much. Goodbye. Izuku helped hurriedly and rushed back into his room and slammed the door, wiping his eyes furiously the moment he was out of sight. They really wouldn't let him get bullied? It just seemed so surreal. He couldn't resist the urge to pinch his arm to make sure he hadn't been overslept somehow. But even though he pinched his arm hard enough to make the skin turn red, he was still at UA, staring at his private room with a setup of computers that the principal himself had personally set up. This was real. After a minute or so, Izuku took a breath to steady himself and sat at his computers. If UA was going to do so much to help him, the least he could do was become an analysis that they could be proud of, starting with his assignment from Nezu, analyzing the hero course first years. That one student has every right to be scared of Izuku, not only because Nezu personally took him in as his personal student, but context, this story is part of a series that's not really connected, and it's a series of like what ifs, right? Same basics, same story, except changing the outcome a little bit. Like for example, in this one, instead of Izuku reaching out to pro heroes, he instead started to go into UA's support course. There's another one where he ends up actually becoming a quirkless hero. because he ended up sending analysis to underground heroes. And then there's this other one that I read where instead of sending analysis to heroes, he starts sending analysis to villains. And let's just say he becomes Japan's #1 villain. Like, he's Quirkless the whole time, but he's just, like, it is insane. I sat there and I was reading this and I'm like, dude, if Izuku was a villain, everybody would go down. Like, all I'm gonna say is mans was scary. And I agree with that one character. Izuku Midoriya can be scary. My best friend who made my profile picture is doing our commission for just $10. If you're interested, contact them on Discord. Roji. That is RROJI. As always, make sure to eat, sleep, drink your water, take your meds, and have a wonderful day or night. Join our community server, link in the description, subscribe to see more content, and thank you so much for watching.